Hey there, I'm Jonathan Rice and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you how I create the texture and the vintage feel to a lot of my artwork and a lot of my illustrations for clients, as well as posters that I sell on my website. So I thought I'd do a little demonstration for you guys and see what you think. And maybe it'll help some of y'all if y'all want to do some of this retro vintage look that is kind of popular right now. So, but before we get going on that, I'd like to say that I'd really appreciate it if you would consider hitting the like button on this video at the end of it if you like it. And if you like content like this, I'd really appreciate it if you would consider, subscribing. I mean, you don't have to, but, it would help me out a lot because my channel is new and barely getting going. And so I'm in just the wee stages of starting this thing. So if you like this kind of content and then the commentaries I've been doing and all that, give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Now, on to the tutorial. So here we have an image that I created for a poster a while back, illustration of a rattlesnake. I kind of put humor in my posters that I sell, a lot of humor sometimes, but sometimes not, but mostly it's humorous. And I like this one, the Western Diamondback Rattlesnake of North America, extremely polite because he'll never bite before he bites. He'll warn you before he bites. I mean, that's the line. So anyway, as you can see right now, it's just pretty much flat color, fairly bright, fairly saturated and things, but this is the way I start out. And so I just wanted to show you this. So what I want to get to is I want to get to an image that is more, vintage look. This feels worn. It maybe crackles and texture in it. So it looks like something that's been around for a while. So let me go in here and let me go and start this thing. And so I want to start adding texture. So the first thing I want to do is I want to add an overall texture. So I want to add like a paper texture. So let's go in and let's add, let me import. I like to place linked files, by the way. It just helps. Sometimes you have to convert them, but sometimes you have to convert them for certain processes. But I like linked files because I can go back and change things later. I'm going to add this paper texture. And by the way, you're going to ask me, where do you get your paper textures? I get them from everywhere. There's a lot of free sources out there. Texturelabs.org is really good. I take photographs of and create my own textures a lot. I mean, I use a lot of that. And I very, very rarely, if at all, ever pay for textures. I think there's just a lot of free ones. And, you can use your iPhone or your camera and go out and buy, just take your own textures. I mean, that's kind of cool. Textures all around you. Okay, so we have this paper texture here. So I'm going to fill the canvas with this, and I don't want what's right on the edge, so I'm going to take it to right there. And that looks good. So let's go ahead and click OK, and let's go and let's just change the blend mode to darken, okay? And I'm going to say darker colors. No, I want to go to darker color. Sorry, guys. Darker color. And I want to change this to like probably around 60%. Now you say, well, it doesn't look like much on screen. Well, let me zoom in and show you what it does. So if you look, you can see these little imperfections in the paper, and there's a little bit of grit and everything. But, honestly, that's just not enough. So we're going to go back and add some more texture. Now, for a little bit of interest, I want to add some crackle to this. I mean, like it's like been rolled up, or it's just, the paper's getting old. So I'm going to add some crackle to this. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to place a linked file, and I have this file called Crackle2, and I'm just going to lay this in. Okay. And there it is, Crackle. I mean, if you can see all this, and I know some of this is repeated, but it's not going to matter as we get into this, because it kind of just dissipates, and there's overlapping textures and all this, so it kind of gets rid of this tiled look. If you really wanted to go in here and change this, you could, but I haven't found a necessity to do that. So we're going to do this. We're going to change this blend mode to overlay. Okay, and then we're going to change it to, let's say about 50%. Let's see what it looks like at 50%. Okay, so we got that in there. Okay, let's look again. Let's see what it did. And you can kind of see it's got a little bit of crackle. Oh, here's a really good thing. You can see that there's a little bit of crackle in there. Cracks and crevices and things like that. And I think that's looking good. So, but that's just not enough for me. It's still not getting there. It's getting there, but it's not exactly what I want. So, I think we just need a brighter cracks. Okay. But before we get to that, I want to add one more overall texture. And this is an old paper texture from Adobe back, I don't know, Photoshop, whatever. And I saved them because I knew eventually they were going to get rid of this, and they did, but I saved the texture. So let's place this Adobe Scratch. And I love this texture. Now, this isn't the actual texture. I've desaturated this. It had a kind of a golden tone to it. So we're going to do an overall texture of that. And we are going to change this to overlay as well. And we're going to make this probably around, let's say 79%, 80%, 79%. Let's see. Let's say 79%, 80%, somewhere 75 to 80%. Okay. And if we come in here, you can see that that's adding some things. Look at this light area right here. That's adding. So it's looking like, it's starting to make it look like old paper. See if I click that off and then on again. I hope you guys can see this. It really looks nice. It's starting to get there. Now it's really starting to get there. Okay. So that's great. Now, I'm not done yet on texture. I like the cracks, but I want some brighter cracks. So let's add a different type of crackle. Now I'm going to come below the first texture we did. I'm going to click on the base image, and I'm going to add above that and below the other textures. Now the reason I'm doing that, I just through, testing and trial and error, I just found out some of these things where they need to be in order, and you just need to play with it. You could take it up and above all the other textures, in between, whatever looks right. For this particular image, I know that this file looks best. I'm going to do Crackle 1, looks best under here. Now, this is different. This is the same file, but I've kind of twisted it and rotated it a little bit. But we're going to do something different here, because I just want the bright areas to show up. Okay. So to do that, I'm going to have to create some kind of mask. And to do that, first of all, we're going to take this layer and we're going to duplicate it. Okay. And we're going to turn off the layer below it. And then I'm going to put, let's see, I'm going to put an adjustment layer on this. Not even an adjustment. I'm just going to adjust it, and I'm going to go to levels. Okay. And we're going to take this and we're going to really darken it up. Okay. I just wanted to get it almost not totally black, because I wanted a lot of this, but to basically where it's kind of like this. I mean, you got a lot of black, you got a lot of white. Let me do that again. Go to levels. Maybe brighten it up just a tad in those areas. Okay, there. Now, that's what we have. Okay? And I did not want smart filters. Oh, well. So we're going to take this and we're going to, I'm actually going to convert this. Let me convert this. This is one instance where you need to convert your smart object and rasterize it. So I'm going to rasterize it. Yes. So it's converted. Okay. So that's what we got. Now I'm going to select all and I'm going to copy this layer and I'm going to turn this off. Now I'm going to turn the layer below it, the original Crackle one, on. And I'm going to create a layer mask. So select that layer, hit this little icon, layer mask. Now I'm going to hit Option, and while I hold the Option key, I'm going to double click this layer mask, or just single click it. And while I'm in this layer mask mode, I'm going to do Command A on a Mac, and whatever the equivalent is for you PC people. I'm not used to saying this because I'm new at this, but I'm going to paste this. I guess it's Control V on a PC. It's Command V on a Mac. So I'm going to paste that in to the layer mask. Okay, so now we have a layer mask on this particular one, and when I click back on this, it looks like everything just disappeared, but it didn't. If you come up here, now we have really bright crackles. Okay, and so I want to change the blend mode on this a little bit. I think it's a little too much. I want to turn it to screen, and I'm going to turn it down to about 70%. Okay, so there, we're at 70%. I think that looks about right. So let's look at this. So now it's starting to get there. We got some brighter areas. Let's turn this one off and on. Say we got some brighter areas up in here, and it's starting to really work. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Let's come down to the snake. I think you can really see it in the snake. Yeah, even these little bright areas here. So it's starting to work. It's starting to get there. Now, what are we going to do next? Well, I'm going to create a vignette, but I don't want the vignette on everything. See, I like this border that I have around here. I want it to be like it's just the paper. So let's go down here to the base art layer, and I'm going to grab my magic wand. I'm going to set the tolerance around 10, and then I'm just going to click. While I've got it selected, the base art selected, I'm going to click and deselect because I already had something selected. Sorry. I'm going to click on this border. All right. So there we go. Got the border selected. Now I'm going to come above the original Crackle. Oh, by the way, this copy Crackle you can get rid of that we created the mask with. But I want to put a layer above this, and I want it to be a solid color layer. So let me add a solid color layer. And if you'll notice, because I had that border selected, it's got it highlighted. So let's go ahead and add and make it black. I want it black. Okay. I want this black. Now, before I do anything, I'm going to check. I'm going to select the layer mask, and I'm going to hit Command I, and that's going to reverse it. Okay. So that way the border is still clean and the inside is like this. So now we're going to hit the Option, and we're going to click the layer mask so we can go right into the layer mask. And remember, what is white reveals, what's black conceals. So we want to prepare this for this vignette. So I don't want the vignette to be really dramatic. I want it to be subtle. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fill this white area first with a gray. So let's go here. Let's type in, I've already got it here, but let's type in just 50% black, nothing else on the CMYK level. And let's just do that. And let's grab the paint bucket and let's just fill just the white area with gray, 50% gray. Okay, great. Now, what we want to do next is create the vignette. So I'm going to come up here and grab my oval tool, my elliptical tool, and I'm going to come and create an oval. And so, oops, hold on a second. Get it right. Try to get it as close in the middle as I can. And if you can see the outline, okay, we're getting there. I'm going to take it out a little bit. And then while I still have this selected, I want to bring it down and kind of center it up. There we go. All right. And then before I fill this with black, I want to feather it. So let's come up here to select modify. Let's feather that. And I found that about 200 pixels at this size, I'm doing this for print. So it's a 12 by 18 at 300 dpi. So 200 pixels for the feather radius seems about right for this. So I'm going to say, okay. Now I'm going to come over here, get my paint bucket tool. We need to go back to black. So we're going to change this foreground color to black, and we're just going to click right in there. Whoops, that did not work. Okay, why did it not work? Oh, we got opacity at 50%. So we're going to change that to 100%. There we go. So 100% black, click it, boom. There we go. So if we come back here and we deselect, and we come back here and click the solid colored layer, not the mask, we can see that we now have a very dramatic vignette, which looks like crap. But remember, it's all about subtlety on the layers, and I mean on the textures. So let's see. Let's just take it down to let's maybe change the color mode to maybe darken. Let's try darken. And then let's drag it down. Let's try 15%, see what that looks like. Okay, 15%. Let's see. Maybe 18, somewhere between 15 and 20. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I think that's working. I mean, you could play with it a little bit more if you want to, but I think that's giving it a nice vignette look. So there we go. So there's one last thing I want to do on a texture. I'm not done yet. And I want to create a new layer by clicking new layer in this menu. And I want to first change the blend mode to overlay. And I want to, down here in this little dialog box, it says fill with overlay neutral color 50%. So I want to do that. And so I want to create that. All right. Now, you can't see it because it's 50% and 50% doesn't affect the background. So, but I do want to take, while I'm on this layer, I want to go up here to filter and I want to go to noise. I want to go to add noise. And for this, I'm really thinking between 10 and 15%, it could be 12, but I think about, let's try 15. Okay. And let's just add that. Boom. Okay. And let's see. Now we zoom in. You say, well, it didn't do much, Jonathan. Well, did it? It gives it a little modeling. And I like this because old prints had a little modeling to them. Okay. So it's a little too much. So let's take it down a little bit. Let's see what it looks like if you take it down to 50. See what it looks like at 50. Yeah. I kind of like 50. Well, let's try it. Play around with this. Let's take it up to 75 and see what that looks like. I go in usually 25% increments and then I start narrowing it down. I think that may be a little too much. Let me come up here and look at the type. Yeah, I think that might be a little too much. Let's go back down to 50. So overlay at 50% seems to about right. If we want to double check it, let's go down to 25 and see what that looks like. And I think 25, well, 25 is just not enough. So let's just type in 50. Okay. There we go. So now we have our layer mask. I mean, now we have the layer, we have all our textures in. You know, we've got the scratch, we've got the crackle, the first crackle that we put in, which is crackle 2, the paper texture, which we put in first. Okay. Come down here and we created a second crackle, and we created a layer mask for it. So all we see are the white areas that really help it. And here we go. We just look, boom, boom. And we did it at a different angle. So that's really cool. And then we also added this vignette. Okay, just a little bit of vignette. And if it's too much for you, let's take it down to 15. I'm wondering if it's a little too much. There we go. That's probably better. Now, before we do anything else, I like to organize. And so what I do is I select all these layers, and I'm going to do new group from layers. Now, you can label this anything you want. I mean, you could put textures. You know, I like to call it FX because I can add other effects in here if I call it FX. So I'm just going to call it FX and say, okay. So now I've got all my textures on one layer. Now that looks pretty good. It really does. I mean, you could, some people could say, well, you're done. And that's true. You could say that. But I'm not convinced that it's totally there yet. I want it to look desaturated. Okay. I want it to look brighter, like it's worn out. So that's part of the effect. So we're going to add some effects here. We're going to come down here to layer effects, and we're going to add in a hue and saturation first. Okay. So hue and saturation, and we're just going to come to the master. Okay. And we're just going to start lowering it and see what it looks like. Okay. That's maybe a little too much. And I like to do this in, let's just take 10% right now. Take it down 10%. But here's the other thing. Take the actual lightness up the same amount you took the saturation down. So let's pull this up to 10%. Okay. So see that right there? It's already looking faded. Okay. Which is kind of cool. But I think maybe it's a little bit too much. I'm going to bring the saturation down just a tad. And I'm going to mirror that with the lightness and take it to about 8. So 8 on both sides, -8 for saturation and +8 for lightness. Now, there's something here that you could look at. And I personally will go and say something's not right. Maybe the color's just a little off or something. Maybe something's a little too bright. So if you wanted to come in here on the hue and saturation and you come up here, you can pick, it says master. You can affect the reds, the yellows, the greens, cyans, blues, magentas. So if I think it's just a tad bit yellow, I can come down here and just take the saturation down just a little bit extra. So this is extra desatch on top of what everything else is. See if I take it all the way down, see what that looks like. You know, don't be afraid to slide these sliders. I mean, that helps you decide what you're going to do. But I just want it ever so slight. I'm thinking I want to lower the yellow about 8%, maybe 10. Okay. And here's something I don't know. I mean, you can say I'm crazy, but I'm going to try the greens and see what that does to it. Let me take the saturation of the greens down. Oh, nothing. There's nothing in there. So, okay, don't need to do it. So forget the greens. Now, also, I can come to the yellow. So we did the yellows. You can do the reds. See what it does. Saturation of the reds. You know, that's just, no, just leave that. Okay. So what we did is we went in, we affected the master hue and saturation. We took the saturation down to -8. We took the lightness up to +8. And then we went into the yellows and desatched the yellows by about 10. Okay. So there. So that's looking pretty good. That's looking better. I like that. Okay. So I still think maybe it needs to be a little bit brighter. So I'm going to come below this. And again, like I told you, I've been working with this, doing this stuff for a long time. Sometimes I put the brightness above the saturation. Sometimes I put it below. For this particular one, I believe that I put it below, and I think it looked great. But let's just see. I'm going to do brightness and contrast, and I'm going to add that right here. And I'm going to try the brightness at about, I want to knock the brightness. Let's just raise the brightness to about 10. See what that does. Okay, let's say 10. That might be too much. Let's knock it down a little bit. Let's take brightness and make it like 5. I don't know if that's enough. Okay, let's say 7 or 8. Let's try 8. Okay, so we've increased it just to 8. Just increased it 8 points on the brightness scale. But here's the other thing: we need to then take and decrease the contrast some too. Now this is an eye thing. You just got to look, and it's your judgment. So I'm going to take it down until I think it looks. See if I could come all the way down like that. But I think it just needs to be a little bit. I want to take it to like -9 on the contrast. Now, let's look at this and see what it looks like if I click it on and off. See, it does change it. And sometimes you just can't tell when you're doing this stuff. Okay? And look at that. Now, there's one last thing we can do here. And again, I'm going to do this below the last thing I did. And that's to put in a photo filter. Okay, so let's come down here. Let's add a photo filter. And let's see. You could just do a warming filter, warming 85, and just see what that looks like. You know, you're adding a little bit of warmth back in. You play with this. But I found on this one, I wanted to just put a color in. Okay, so I'm going to put a color that is, I just know for a fact I like this orange. I'm going to say 236, 138, and 0 on the RGB scale. Boom. And that's probably a little too orange. I'm going to knock this down to 20%. Okay, now this is subtle, and you guys might not be able to see it, but it does make a little bit of a difference. And remember, texture and this kind of retro vintage look, it's all subtleties, just so you know. There's a lot of subtleties to it. So there we go. I think that looks good. Now, last little thing from an organizational standpoint, I like to grab these 3, group the layers, and just say adjustments. Okay? So that's it. Let's look what it looks like without this. Let's turn them all off. This is where we started. Okay? And then we added all the textures, and we got to here. And then we fine-tuned it with adjustments. We turn those on, and we get to there, and that's where we are. You can do one last thing. You say, well, maybe it's a little too flat, although I think this kind of retro vintage look, it is a little flatter than normal. You could come above all of this, and you could add a curves to it, and you could just come here and play with a very subtle linear contrast, and that could change it a little bit. But I think you just destroyed everything you just got through doing by doing that. So on this particular image, I didn't do it. I do add curves on some other images to bring back a little bit of contrast, just a little bit. So that's it, guys. That is how I create the texture and the retro vintage look in all of my work. Again, if you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up. And if you like content like this, I would be so honored if you'd subscribe, but no pressure. Understand. I only subscribe to the channels I really like. And so, but if you do, I'd appreciate it. Until then, I'm Jonathan Rice. Thanks for watching, and take care.